Hello and welcome to our Reboot review. I'm Paul.
And I'm Dave.
And this week we're discussing the episode Return of the Crimson Binome. Anyway,
Yes, very much fun with pirate episode.
this episode originally aired in Canada on October 15th, 1997. Let us start off with the number one film at the box office this week, Dave. Any idea?
Um,
It's a seasonally appropriate film. It's a horror movie.
it's the Spookums.
Mm-hmm. And quite a good
Hmm.
one, in my opinion. I quite like this movie.
Is it one of the ones that made a bit of a franchise of itself?
Yeah, there were, I want to say, three or four of them.
Okay, so somewhat of a calling, but anything crazy like the juggernauts of the time. Ah,
It also had like a really good cast too, for especially for like a horror movie.
okay. Like there's a couple of names that are kind of coming to mind, but they might be a little bit off in years for things like that. Uh, Shoot, it's there, but I'm not sure if I'll get the title right. I think it was the I Know What You Did Last Summer.
It is. I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Okay. The very first one or one of the
It's
sequels?
the first one. Yeah, yeah,
Okay, around that time.
yes. It's a very fun movie. If you haven't seen it, you should go watch it. It's I like this particular one because well, and a lot of Kevin Williamson's movies are like this, like his horror movies, but like it's kind of set up like a murder mystery as well as a horror movie
Okay. Yeah, that definitely sort of tracks.
because we don't know who the killer is, and it's quite
Yeah,
good,
those sort of pieces there. Mhm.
and it has a very good cast for 1997. For those of you who don't know, it's Jennifer Love Hewitt, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Ryan Philippe, and Freddie Prinze Jr. as the four leads.
Mm.
For 1997, that's a hell of a cast. Anyway, let us move on to the number one song in America this week, Dave. Any guesses?
Honestly, if I had to venture a guess, I believe you mentioned last week that it was an Elton John song,
Yes.
and Elton John is Elton John, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's still stuck around.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Title wise is slipping my
Oh,
mind though.
Candle in the Wind, 1997, or Something About the Way You Look Tonight.
Okay, again, ones that I've heard with running through a couple of his records, but not those two specifically.
Yes, they were apparently super popular at the time.
Because Elton John is Elton John.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So, next up, we've got video games for 1997, and my god. We only have two this week, but my god. They're both bangers. So, first up, if you're a PC gamer, oh my god, did you get a treat? You could pick up this little game called Age of Empires.
Ooh, getting the start of that boat rowing.
Yes, did you ever play any of the Age of Empires games?
Surprisingly enough, no, but it was a bit of a case of when it came to video games, I was kind of strictly console. Anything on the computer was either specifically educational and or like incredibly simple, like either the pinball game that was on it or Minesweeper.
Oh, I remember that pinball game. That pinball game was great. Also, on the same day, if you're like, I'm not really a PC person, I want to go to the arcade. You could go to the arcade and pop in a couple of quarters and play this new little game called Mortal Kombat 4.
Ooh, like understand it, but still kind of the case of always fun to play it, but nothing that was specifically within my area or that was strongly remembered. So not too sure what interesting differences they've added with this one.
Uh, so, Mortal Kombat 4, from memory, was like a good Mortal Kombat, but not a great one.
Kind of like the fire's still there, but it's been burning for a while. Nobody's bothered to throw a log on it recently.
Yeah, it from memory, and I haven't played this game in probably 20 years at this point, but I remember this one being more of the same, and it's like, okay, maybe we could kind of start to evolve this a little. Yeah. But still, it's a big release.
Yeah, you know.
All right, moving on to the episode. So, okay, we start off with Matrix and Andrea finding Captain Capacitor, who is currently wanted, along
Yeah.
with his little assistant, who I can't remember the name of.
Like the thing that's coming to my mind was Jeeves, but I'm not sure if that was correct from the show from there.
I don't remember. Anyway, they are currently wanted, and they are being held in a portal system due to a new law enforced by the Guardians. They attempt a prison break to free some of his crew to use the ship to return to mainframe. They meet a web surfer named Ray Tracer, who they release from prison and agrees to help them. And Matrix grows jealous of him when he flirts with Andrea. Dun dun dun.
Uh,
So, what do you think of this episode, Dave?
it was a marvelous little bit of fun with the spaghetti western style that they had from the last episode, with switching the style up to having a bit more cops and robbers, prison break, pirate styling to most things with it. It was just a decent amount of fun, adding bits and pieces of tension to either move on with or had fun with within the episode.
Yeah,
I think I think at the very most it was just the whole vibe as well as the one or two little bits and pieces that were kind of funny little nods or other little things bringing up with uh, first showing off the characters with bringing them back now to uh, just fun ideas that they came up with interactions with the police with Andrea and the web surfer and getting things together before escaping to get out of the system.
yeah, it's a fun little episode, and I do like to have the pirates back.
Mm-hmm.
I maybe didn't love their first episode, at least the conclusion to it, but I do enjoy them as characters. So I'm quite
It's
happy that they're back.
been in the case of the recap from the old episode of pirates come to mainframe to steal a whole bunch of things, and Dot's like, "Hey, you want a business venture?" It's like, "Oh my gosh," it didn't exactly sit well with you.
No, that was kind of the issue I had with it. Was like, well, that's such a piss poor conclusion.
I guess with first season sort of thing, but still, the additional functionality of Enzo still remembering the pirates, but having different connection with them now, and especially with the little bits of this episode and heading on forward, just the case of, man, you've changed a lot when you were a kid. What would your sister think of you?
Yeah, I quite like that. We're kind of having somebody come back from Matrix's past who's kind of like, what the fuck happened to you?
Yeah.
Which is fun because we don't have Bob or Dot around right now. Well, at least not in the same like storyline.
Yes, yes.
Yes, this was quite a fun episode. However, it wasn't a very fun episode if you were in Britain.
Oh dear, what happened?
Well, this is the last episode that would air in Britain due to concerns about the show's themes becoming more mature.
Understandable.
I mean, I feel like I've watched a fair bit of British TV, and maybe it's the violence because I know Britain, like the UK, and that is more strict about like violence. But I'm like, some of the shit they put on TV is way more adult than this.
Yeah. It also seems to be a bit more of a verbal discussion in most cases, at least with the Britain television that I'm familiar with. I don't think it kind of exudes to the bit more American style um, conflict sort of things I can get from there. I can
Yeah,
supposedly see it, but it's still a bit of a case of I'm not completely familiar with the differences.
yeah, I think they're much more strict about things like violence, whereas you can like pretty much say fuck whenever you want on TV there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a interesting little piece of trivia. Did you have anything else about this episode?
I think on whole, it's definitely interesting with throwing these characters in to add to the story, help move the story along, and see how things kind of move on from here. And especially with the newest introduction of the web surfer, kind of seeing bit of the things he can do for his skill set as well as what he'll kind of add as the series goes on. Just little bits of additional foil to work with Matrix, as well as seeing what sort of stuff they're gonna get up to.
Excuse me. And speaking of what they're going to get up to, next week we'll be discussing the episode The Edge of Beyond. So the crew and everyone are going to enter the web to find Bob and return to mainframe. They find themselves with a new goal, however, after Andrea gets bitten by a web creature. A dun dun dun.
Because you know, when you head to the edge and beyond, your plans are going to get interrupted by something.
They absolutely are. So until then, I'm Paul.
And I'm Dave.